Myself Janani from 2nd MA English and subject is British Literature 3, Unit 1, Fra Lippo Lippi by Robert Browning. He was born on 7th May 1812, Camberwell, London and died on 12th December 1888 at the age of 77, Venice, Italy. His occupation is English playwright and poet. This poem contains 392 lines, which is a dramatic monologue. The poet asks the question whether art should be true to life or an idealized image of life. So, let us see what is dramatic monologue. So, dramatic monologue means what? A poem written in the form of speech of an individual character. So, this character addresses and interacts with one or more people. So, this poem is also a dramatic monologue. So, let us see the poem summary. Fra Lippo was born in Florence in 1406 to Tommaso, a butcher, and his wife. It was orphaned when he was 2 years old and sent to live with his aunt Mona Letitia because she was too poor to rear him. She placed him in the neighboring Carmelite convent when he was 8 years old. There he started his education. In 1420, he was admitted to the community of Carmelite Friar of the Prior of Our Lady Mount Carmel in Florence, taking the religious vow in order of the following years at the age of 16. He was ordained as a priest, but he quitted the monastery in 1432, although he was not released from his vows. In 1432, his paintings became popular while renting the spirit of the Medici family, who commissioned the Annunciations. And 7 Saints Cosimo de' Medici had to look him up in order to compel him to work, and even then the painter escaped by the rope made by the sheets. So, his going away included him into many difficulties, which included the similar tales of lawsuits, forgery campaigns, broken promises and scandals. In 1441, Lippo painted an ART piece for the runs of Saint Abigail, which is now a prominent attraction in the Academy of the Florence and was celebrated in Browning's well-famous poem For Lippo Lippi. So, this is the story of the poem that I am presenting to you. This poem is written in a dramatic monologue style. Well, in the story, Lippo is caught by a policeman along with the 2 other subordinates in a notary's area. So, it is the same place when he came down from the sheets from the house of Medici, so Floripo gives his introduction and the policeman releases him when they realize that he lives with the secular landlord Cosimo de' Medici. Lippo then rebukes them and threatens them for their mind contact with him. They regret the unavailability of shop. He told otherwise we could have painted the exact picture. He says that he belongs to a cloister and then he had been painting the picture of Saint for 3 weeks. Suddenly, he notices that policemen do not believe in his narration. He tells them his past. He says that his parents died and left him to start in the street in a young age. So, when he realizes that police do not believe his narration, he tells his past. His parents died and left him to start in the street in the young age. He spent his life in street and ate rubbish and dirty food. He even sold the wax of candles in the market to earn bread. He often scalded and punished by the magistrates and people of the Florence. One day, a lady Lapica took him with her hand and got him admitted in the church. As a young monk, he willingly accepted the offer as he was given a plenty to eat and enough to wear for the first time in many years. And he did not become monk out of his spiritual feelings or religious devotion. But to overcome his hunger, the monk tried to teach him Bible and Latin, but they failed since he was not interested in learning. He started making drawings, paintings and sketches of the people whom he saw all the time in the church. He painted them on the prayer book, tables, walls and doors. The monk did not like this, but the prior accepted his talent. He said, "Loose the screw and catch the lock," and gave his consent that he can paint and decorate the front portion of the church. Lippo painted all sorts of monks, church activities, even a criminal who came to the church for the confession. He became so much skilled that he could paint extemporary painting. Then the superior saw the body paintings and such a body like in which he saw showing the real people who came to the church, just like a boy patting the dog or the prayer niece and then the prayer niece herself. So they became angry. His heart was at one stop. They objected that the body painting is the devil's game. And he must paint the soul. He replied to the monk that the body painting brings beauty, whereas souls cannot be painted. But they refused and said that they asked him to try a second time and paint the soul only. Lippo replied that the painter paints the reality. The painter paints the reality and cannot use yellow instead of white in the picture. And if the picture is white, then he has to use the white. He cannot make it yellow. So he further said painting body is necessary for showing emotions because people stop to see the beauty in painting. Lippo tells the policeman that he already said to the drawer that God made the world and everything else as well. So I paint his feelings so that people may start to see God's work. He says that he paints nature more beautifully than it is so that we may think of God for his gift. He says that sometimes painting gives him such lessons that we do not learn from sermon and prayers addresses. He says that painting interrupts God's creation and the world must be thankful. To the painter, he tells another incident that prior object that his paintings do not instigate of prayers. He says that the reply that my paintings do not instigate the people to pray because once he painted the Saint Lawrence being burnt alive by the free slaves and the people got excited, faces were scratched and it was to calm down their emotions. So, it is a painting served as a characterizes and here when Lippo again realizes that the policemen are still reluctant to believe him and he says to them to come after 6 men and see his another masterpiece. Saint Ambrose touched well that we could paint God, Mary Christ, saints and angels. He also says that if he is hopeful to become a part of that sacred painting, he created it thus he defends his character and his professions because saints can't paint and this is the work of the painter only. Then he departs from the police so the whole story depicts about the Renaissance painters of the time so the painters had to face a lot of criticism by the church. The church did not permit them to paint the bodies, but must have seen that the Renaissance paintings they are mostly about the body and mostly we find the clothless people over there. So this is how they painted, but they definitely gave some lessons which church did not allow. But sooner the Roman Catholic Church it saw its decline and the Renaissance paintings they flourished. So this dramatic monologue was written by Robert Browning, who shows a character through the soul's dissections. And he is the one who basically loves painting, and his 5 to 6 poems are about poem. Thank you so much for your patience for hearing this video. Thank you so much.
Hi friends, I'm Priya, second year MA English. The Unknown Citizen, written by W.H. Auden. About the poet, he was born on 21 February 1907, then he died 29 September 1973. He was an English poet, playwright, and critic. His first book and poem was published in 1930 with the help of T.S. Eliot. His famous poems are 12 Songs in 1936, The Waters in 1927, The Unknown Citizen is 1940. The Unknown Citizen is one of the famous poems about the poetry. The Unknown Citizen, written by W.H. Auden, is a model of conformity in society where everyone must follow the rules of society if things are to run smoothly. The poem is a satire of total lack of individuality in a state controlled society. The Unknown Citizen is a poem written in praise of a man who lived a life what the government had deemed as an exemplary life. On the other hand, the poem implicitly questions the standardization of modern life, suggesting the people won't care about their individuality when they focus on the standards set by society they like. The poem begins with the detail about the citizen, which was found by the Bureau of Statistics, where it was found that he was a person with no official complaints. All the reports on his conduct agreed that he was a saint in the old fashioned world. He served the greater community until the day he retired. He worked in a factory and never got fired as he always satisfied his employees who were Forge Motor Incorporation. Still, he was not in his view. According to his union reports, he paid his dues and the social psychology worker found that he was popular with his friend and liked a drink. The press are convinced that he bought newspaper every day and he reacted normally to advertisement. His health card showed that he was only once in the hospital and he was clear also. He was sensible to installment plan and had everything necessary to modern man like a photographer, radio car and a fridge. Even public opinion about him was satisfactory and he held proper opinions for the time of year like when there was peace he was for peace and when there was war he was for war. His family also write like he was married and added 5 children to the population, which hygienists say was the right number of a parent of his generation. Teacher report says he never interfered with his children's education. The poet finally adds in the last 2 lines that the only questions is was he happy and was he free.
I am Tusita. I am pursuing PG in literature and the subject name is British literature 22MEN3C1. The topic is on the prose Sesame and Lilies of Queen's Garden by John Ruskin. About the writer John Ruskin, 8 Feb 1819 to 20 January 1900 was an English writer, philosopher, art critic, and polymath of the Victorian era. He wrote on subjects as varied as zoology, architecture, myth, ornithology. Ornithology means study of birds, literature, education, botany, and political economy. Notable works: Modern Painters, 5 volumes, and The Seven Lamps of Architecture, The Stones of Venice, unto this last. So the years are first painters 1843 to 1860. Next work is 1849, and third works the Stones of Venice 1851 to 1853. Unto this last 1860 1862, and we have to memorize these years also. Introduction. The theme of this lecture is how women can possess kindly power conferred to them by education. If women get education, they become powerful and prestigious. There is no difference between man and woman, they are complementary to each other. Aim of education is to get acquainted with the wisest and greatest people through books. Women in literature. Shakespeare is said to have no heroes but only heroines. Othello, Hamlet, Julius Caesar, Merchant, and Orlando are all weaker than Desdemona, Cordelia, Isabella, Portia, and Rosalind. Tragedy occurs because the heroes does fatal mistake. Shakespeare's women are clever and intelligent. Among Shakespeare's women, Ophelia is weak, and Lady Macbeth, Regan, and Gondrel are wicked. Thus, Shakespeare views women to be more capable than men. He also quotes women characters of Walter Scott, Dante, and Chaucer. Women in these literature are real and not imaginary. And role of women at home. The view that men are always wiser, the thinker, and the ruler is wrong. Women are not dolls. They play the role of a lover to encourage and guide men. The lover has sense of duty towards her man. Their marriage marks the change of temporary service into eternal affair. Man works out of his home. He faces a lot of trouble and he is hardened. Woman is the mistress of home and she is to maintain peace and good atmosphere at home. A good wife is a home in herself. So, um, these are the Walter Scott women are real. This Dante, Walter Scott, and Chaucer women are real. Education to women. Women must be educated in physical training. They should gain good health and beauty. The best poem that reflects this is Wordsworth's Education of Nature. A woman's good nature is reflected in her face. She should never suffer. She should have 3 characters: physical beauty, natural instinct of justice, and natural tact of love. She must read history. Theology is a dangerous science for women and it makes her superstitious. Theology means, of course, the study of religion, and her knowledge must of general nature. She need not specialize in a specific field. She must not read romantic novels and poetry because they contain falsehoods. And girls should be left in library. They must be taught music because music has healing power. As boys are courageous, girls are also courageous. They should not develop any complexities like superiority or inferiority complex. Women in society and politics. Later he talks about role of women in society and politics. Man's public duties are extensions of his duties at home. Similarly, woman's duty could be extended to public. Man defends the country and a woman defends the family economy. A woman is a queen of her lover, queen to her husband and children. She can be called the Prince of Peace. Ruskin is not surprised the loss of life in war, but the wasting of woman power surprises him. Theme. The theme of this lecture is how women can possess kingly power conferred to them by education. If women get education, they become powerful and prestigious. There is no difference between man and woman. They are complementary to each other. Conclusion. The world is a big garden. There is war all over the world, all over the garden. If women walk in the garden, there could be change in war. Women should come into the garden. They must help men to get shelter. Thank you.
Hi everybody, this is Priyadashini from 2nd MA English. This video about Lady Windermere's Fan by Oscar Wilde. This is one of the drama in British literature. About the author Oscar Wilde, born on October 16, 1854, Ireland, death on November 30, 1900. He was writer in 1800 to 1898. He was writer and lecturer, lived in Victorian period. She was wrote drama, short stories, journalist, but notable works, The Importance of Beginning Earnest, The Picture of Dorian Gray. His writing has a very witty and easy to read. Treat art as a supreme reality and treat life as a fiction. About the play 1890s Victorian London, satirical comedy on marriage and society. The play mostly attack on upper class family. Now 4 acts. First performed on Saturday 20th February 1892 at the St. John's Theatre in London. Characters of the play: Lord Windermere, Lady Margaret Windermere, Lord Augustus, Lord Darlington, Duchess of Berwick, Mrs. Erlyn, Mr. Hopper. The action of the play take place in 24 hours beginning on a Tuesday afternoon at 5 o'clock and ending the next day at 1:30 p.m. only. Now move to the story. Lady Windermere's Fan by Oscar Wilde is a play in 4 acts that begins at Lady Margaret Windermere's home, where she is arranging flowers rose for a party to celebrate her birthday that evening. She receives a visit from Lord Darlington, who flirt with her. She scolded him because she is married, but he insists that she has the right to compose herself. Seeing as how her husband is unfaithful, she does not realize his meaning thought and continues to ignore his present flirting. After he leaves, the Duchess of Berwick arrives with her doctor, Lady Agatha Carlis. She tells Margaret that Lord Windermere has been spending time with her and money on one Mrs. Erlyn, a woman of questionable social status. However, the Duchess intends no slight to Margaret and status that her own husband has been unfaithful in the past, and presume it is just that man or incapable of living moral lives. Before leaving, she expressed to Margaret her eagerness to marry Agatha of dissipate men immortally. Margaret picks in her husband's desk, where she finds records of payments to Mr. Erlyn. Lord Windermere comes in and catches her, becoming cross. His request to invite Mr. Erlyn to their party is met with outright refuse from Lady Windermere. Despite this, he invites her anyway. Margaret vows to hit Mr. Erling with her fan, which angers her husband. She storms off. Lord Windermere tells the audience that he dare not tell his wife who Mr. Erling is, for it would shame her. Act 1 is enough. Now Act 2. Kickers of which Margaret's birthday party, the Duchess insists her daughter dance with Mr. Hopper, a possible sister for Australia, the Duchess' brother Lord Augustus Lawton. Tasked with Lord Windermere, he inquires how Mr. Erling can be respectable so that he can marry her, and is realized to now she has been invited to the party. Mrs. Erling arrives and greets each guest, playing particular action to the men much to their wives. Margaret hangs still with her husband, flirt with Lord Darlington, who prospers his love and offer to take her way with him. She is shocked and begs that she have time to see if her husband will renew his loyalty to her. Darlington is grateful and tells Margaret that he leaves England the next day. The Duchess praises Mr. Erling to Margaret, but suggests that she separate her from Lord Windermere. All the same, men well, Mr. Hopper has proposed to Agatha, and Lord Lawton proposed to Mr. Erling. Lawton also requests an annual payment from Windermere, who reluctantly accepts and lives with her to iron out the details. Margaret decides she will run away with Darlington after all, and leaves a letter of farewell on her husband's desk, where Mr. Erling finds it when Lord Augustus enters. Mr. Erling asks him to take Darlington to his club and not run until morning. Lady Windermere is in Darlington's room, her mind still not made up. Mr. Erling arrives and tells Margaret she is not in a relationship with Lord Windermere, and begs her to return to her husband. When Mr. Erling reminds Margaret about her child, she decides to stay, but the two have to hide when Augustus, Darlington, Windermere, and a few others arrived after Augustus and Windermere were turned away from their club. The man still in to play a game of cards and find Margaret's fan. Windermere turned her to search the room. So Mrs. Erling stepped out of their hiding place and presents to have mistakenly grabbed Margaret's fan. At the beginning of Act 4, Margaret is ruminating over Mrs. Erling's willingness to throw her reputation into the new to save her. Lord Windermere suggests a trip to the countrysides and the cityside. Mrs. Erling, whom Margaret prizes, Margaret insists on seeing the other woman before their leaves. Mr. Erling is planning to leave, but she wants a photograph of Margaret and her child. Will Margaret go to fetch on Mrs. Erling and Lord Windermere speak in private. Mrs. Erling reveals that she is Margaret's mother but does not reveal herself to Margaret. Rather, she advises her daughter not to tell her husband that she was thinking of leaving him. When Lord Augustus arrives at the end of the play, Mrs. Erling insisted she was looking for him in Darlington's rooms, and so he prospers again. Margaret connected that Augustus in marrying a good woman, a woman of no importance, an ideal husband, and the importance of beginning honest shortly after producing his critical exaggeration work. Wilde found himself in larger trouble. He ends up imprisoned for 2 years, and after he realized he was broken and his life was shattered by scandal. Lady Windermere fans theme: marriage, social class, hypocrisy, symbols, the rose, fan. Mrs. Erling ever knows her mother of Lady Windermere, the symbolish of central character. Thank you.
Hi everyone, this is Ramya from Dr. Umayal Ramanathan College for Women. This video is about the essay of a nice cup of tea by George Orwell. Before getting into the essay, let me give a short introduction about the author George Orwell and the introduction about a nice cup of tea. George Orwell was an English novelist, essayist, journalist, and critic. He was born on 25th June 1903 and died on 21st January 1950. He was best known for his novel Animal Farm in 1984, his full name Eric Arthur Blair, and his literary period 20th century. A Nice Cup of Tea is an essay type. It was first published in the London Evening Standard on 12th January 1946. This essay is about making a perfect cup of tea. People all over the world like to drink tea. They only drink it in order to be warm and simulated. George Orwell in this essay point out that there are 11 golden rules to be observed while making a nice cup of tea, and he elaborates them step by step and points out that tea making is a matter of great skill and expertise. After reading this essay, we too become familiar with making a nice cup of tea. George Orwell highlights that we cannot find important point about tea preparation in a cookery book. It is curious that tea is one of the mainstay of civilization in our country, Ireland, Australia, and New Zealand. But the best way of making tea creates wide and disputes. When the author looked through his own recipe for the perfect cup of tea, he found 11 outstanding points. Among them, two were agreeable, but four rules are highly controversial. Now let's get into the 11 golden rules. Rule number 1. First of all, one should use Indian or Ceyloni tea. China tea has some virtues. They are not despised nowadays because it is economical and countrying without milk. But it is not much simulation. One does not feel wiser, braver, or optimistic after drinking it. A nice cup of tea means Indian tea. Rule number 2. Secondly, tea should be made in small quantity in a teapot. Army tea made in a cauldron taste of grease and whitewash. The teapot should be made of china or earthenware, silverware or Brittenware. Teapot produce inferiority and enamel pots are worse. Let's get into the rule number 3. Thirdly, the pot should be warmed beforehand. And rule number 4, as a fourth rule, tea should be strong. All tea lovers like strong tea. People like tea little stronger year after year. And rule number 5, fifthly, tea should be put straight into the pot. Tea should never be filtered using strainer or muslin bag and other device because it might be harmful. Now let's get into the rule number 6. Sixth rule is one should take the teapot to the kettle and not kettle to the teapot. When the mixing takes place, we should not remove the kettle from the stove. And the seventh rule is after making a tea, it should be strained and teapot should be shaken. Then allow the leaves to settle. And the next eighth rule, the author prefers the cylindrical cup for holding more tea, and one should drink out of a good breakfast cup. Now let's get into the rule number 9. Ninth rule is the cream in milk should be removed. Before making tea, full of cream gives sicky taste. That is very bad taste. And the tenth rule is the author states that tea should be poured into the cup first. In Britain, some people believe that milk should be poured first. This is one of the most controversial point of all. And the final rule, that is rule number 11, tea should be drunk without sugar. The author calls the people who drink tea with sugar as misguided people. Adding sugar with tea destroys the flavor of tea. He advised the people to practice drinking tea without sugar for 14 days, then they will drink tea only without sugar. The author has mentioned that the controversial points are not comprehensive, but they are enough for noticing and understanding the preparation of a nice cup of tea. And the conclusion, we should not only focus in these 11 points, also we should warm the pot properly, use the right quantity of water and a good quality teapot. Thank you.